Welcome back, everyone. Today's video is on the Korean exclusives new to Legacy of the Valiant.
So just to specify, these are the 5 cards that were released specifically in the Korean version of the OCG set. So they were not released in the Japanese version. We already talked about the exclusives from the Japanese version, but these were Korean specific. They're some pretty interesting cards. We're gonna start with Flowbot. It's an Earth Plant Effect monster, level 3. It's got 1500 attack and 800 defense. Its effect is when this card is sent to the graveyard, you draw 1 card, and then place 1 card from your hand on the top of your deck.
So, this is pretty good for all plant type decks, especially Sylvans. Some great Sylvan support. When this card is sent to the graveyard, whether it be through your Sylvan effects or if you want to just throw it in the graveyard with Foolish Burial, you're going to be able to draw a card, and then you have the option of placing any of your Sylvan cards on top of your deck for later Sylvan effect shenanigans.
Another thing, I mean, it gets you the top card of your deck, and then you pick what's going to be next. So that can be useful for things like maybe unfortunately drawn Rank Up Magic, the 7th one, get it back on top of your deck, or set up things like Magical Merchant, various things like that.
Also, since it's a level 3 Earth Plant, that does give it the ability to be summon it into, what is it, Melee of the Trees?
Melee of the Trees, yep.
Yeah, so that's going to give you additional plant special summoning support.
Alright, next we're going to talk about Humpty Dandy. It's a dark zombie effect monster, level 3 with 1400 attack and 0 defense. Its effect is once per turn, you can change this card to face down defense position. When this card is flip summoned, it gains 800 attack until the end phase.
So the main use I see for this card is sort of an additional support for Ghost Tricks, perhaps, since you have field spell support protecting your Ghost Trick / face down defense position monsters. That's going to protect this card. Then you're going to be able to flip summon the card, gain 800 attack to be a 2200 sort of beater card, and that's definitely useful for the Ghost Tricks since they don't have very powerful cards.
Plus, the nice thing is at 1400 attack, even though it'll raise obviously once you flip summon it, being below that 1500 attack threshold means it can be searched by a lot of cards. Like you can get it back from the graveyard with Dark Eruption. With 0 defense, it can be grabbed with Recurring Nightmare.
Also, Pyramid Turtle!
Pyramid Turtle and Mystic Tomato, so it's actually a fairly easy card to get at in your deck.
Which is definitely going to come in handy for this card. I guess next we have the Xyz exclusive Outer God Narula, which is a rank 4 Earth Fiend Xyz monster with the effect, or it takes 2 level 4 monsters to Xyz summon into, and its effect is when this card is Xyz summoned, you can discard any number of cards, increase this card's rank by 1 for each card discarded. Once per turn, you can target 1 monster in your graveyard, detach all Xyz materials from this card, and attach that card to this card as an Xyz material. And if you do, this card's type and attribute becomes that Xyz material's original type and attribute.
So at first glance, this may not seem like all that good of a card, but what its main purpose there is it's pretty much a utility for any sort of rank up magic. Because if you think about it, if you have any monster that can be ranked up in your graveyard, what you can do with this card is basically meet the requirements to rank it up again, whether you need to discard cards to raise its rank up to match the other one, and then you can also grab it from your graveyard so that when you rank it up, the monster that you summon has its full effect because it does have that original monster as an Xyz material.
Additionally, if you raise this card up to rank 6, you're going to be able to use Xyz Burst and destroy all your opponent's set cards.
You could also say just raise its rank 1, and then you have a very easy to summon Gaia Dragon the Thunder Charger. All you need to have is 2 level 4 monsters in the discard. So
basically this is just a utility card. It's really easy to summon since it's a generic. It has 2600 defense, so you're going to be able to protect it pretty easily just by having it in defense mode, and then you can do your shenanigans if you need to wait a turn or two potentially to get the cards you need to use this card for rank up magics or Xyz Burst or whatever you're trying to use it for.
Another nice thing is with its ability to kind of just move around in the ranks, as well as it's the fact that you just have to detach at least one material because you detach all. It makes it kind of ideal for things like Xyz Gift or Xyz Energy, things like that, where you need to detach material to use the card, because all you need is to have one, and then you replace it with whatever you want from your graveyard. Which, on that note, is another nice thing you could do, is you could always grab a Synchro Monster from your graveyard, and then you've met the requirements for Black and White Wave.
Additionally, since this card's effect is to discard, you can use cards that take advantage of that, like Fabled, and get some Synchro support out like that, or additional Fabled monsters if you want to exceed someone with those. That is also a possibility if you have two of the same level, of course.
Alright, and then next we have the quick play spell card Dragon Roar, with the effect of banish 1 Earth, 1 Water, 1 Fire, and 1 Wind monster from your graveyard. Shuffle 1 card on the field into the deck. Now, as is fairly obvious by the card art, this is kind of like a Dragon Ruler support card.
Which makes a lot more sense because it's over... They're all at 2 in the OCG list, at least for now.
So it's a little bit easier to use, and obviously if you were to use it with the 4 Dragon Rulers, then basically you're shuffling a card on the field into the deck and getting 4 effects off by banishing all of them. So that's kind of the obvious use for this card. But other things, there are various other decks that do run those 4 attributes, because that's mainly the non-light and dark. So you could use it in things like Heroes, and then you can just get your monsters back later with the Shining or things like that.
Yeah, and that shuffle 1 card on the field into the deck is also very useful. There aren't very many cards that do that, so you're going to want to take advantage of that, since you are going to be able to shuffle it into the deck, whether it be an extra deck card or a main deck card. So if your opponent has sort of a lockdown card like a Kaiser Coliseum or a Messenger of Peace, then those sort of lockdown cards, you can just shuffle them into the deck and hopefully your opponent won't draw them again.
Exactly. It kind of just gets whatever card you need just out of the way. Obviously, it's got a bit of a hefty requirement, but it's a very powerful card. We've had cards like that before, like Elemental Burst and things like that. Alright, and finally, we have the normal trap card Planck Scale, with the effect of, during this turn, apply these effects. Rank 3 or lower Xyz monsters gain 500 attack and defense, and rank 4 or higher Xyz monsters cannot attack.
So, finally we have a pseudo-gravity bind for Xyz monsters.
For a turn.
For a turn. Well, yeah, that's why I kind of said pseudo, because it's not a continuous trap, it's just a normal trap, so it's only going to be for 1 turn. But especially if you have lower ranking Xyz monsters, that's going to help you potentially get over those higher ranking Xyz monsters. Like if you have a level 5 and Dragon out, you already have 2,500. You could go to 3,000 with its effect, but you're not going to be able to attack directly further on. This is going to allow you to get up to 3,000, attack over those higher attack monsters, and then still be able to attack directly on latter turns.
Basically, you can use it as kind of 2 edges of a similar sword. Either you can use it to support your own rank 3 monsters, or you could just have it just to counter your opponent's higher rank Xyz monsters, because it's basically a threatening roar for the higher Xyz monsters. So it could be a decent side deck card against a lot of decks when things like that. Plus, as it's very similar to Threatening Roar in that respect, it's a chainable trap card that you can use at any point during your turn.
But as the card says, it's only ranked for higher monsters. It's not going to stop any level monsters or synchro monsters, which are level monsters. But that is a little unfortunate. But also you can use this card with your number 64 and raise its attack for additional, or raise token attack for... Raise its token's attack so you can attack over your opponent's monsters, so you don't have to deal with those potentially higher ranking Xyz on later turns. But I guess that's it for the Korean exclusives. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, leave your comments below on your thoughts on these very strange art cards.